Hopefully most of you know me. My name is James Cape. I'm the current president of the Intel Alumni Network. This series around career development and transition is something that I think is very timely, particularly in light of the unfortunate situation at Intel Corporation. I can tell you that both Howard, Jacob, and I have fielded many people who have been let go from Intel and are struggling, as anybody would, with career transition. I was introduced to Gina Riley by a fellow Intel alum, Michael Green, who I worked with both at Sequent when he was a customer of ours for the Enterprise Server Group, and then when he rejoined Intel. This will be a series of 3 webinars, starting today with career transition, and then tomorrow there will be another webinar around resume writing. And then January 11th, and I apologize for forgetting the topic, but it will be, again, an extension about how do you plot your path to your next big thing.
It's
And
January 9th, just to
9th, oh, my
9th.
bad, January
Yep.
9th. And then what we're thinking is this will be a series that will continue on a quarterly basis. And with that, let me introduce Gina Riley, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Gina Riley Consulting, and she works closely with the Talents Group executive search team. And with that, Gina, I think I've covered everything for you guys, and I am going to go dark, and you guys get to kick this off.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. We want to encourage people to be networking and chatting in the chat. And we want to encourage you also to use that Q&A specifically for questions. So my trusty sidekick, Ellen Recco, is going to be monitoring the Q&A. That is where we will focus our attention for questions. Welcome to our Career Transition Strategy 101, where we are going to give you an overview of all the moving parts to a career transition to help you get you on your way. So I will briefly jump in and explain a little bit about me. Why would you listen to Gina Riley? So I am an Intel alum. I worked at Intel in the 90s for about a decade. I'm now an alumna. And I was in recruitment. I helped staff a lot of the new hires for the Pentium when we were bringing that up and running. I went and got a master's degree because what I really wanted to do was be an HR business partner and move into training and development. So that's another thing I did during my tenure there. And I also ran the Oregon intern program, which at the time was over 400 students. So I had an incredible experience at Intel. I say the blue runs in my veins. And I'm also married to an Intel alum as well, Sean Riley. So I took a 15-year break in my career to raise 2 sons, and I re-entered the workforce back in about 2015 with the Talents Group. And another fellow alum, Sherry Kitsowan, is the CEO of Talents Group. She's owned that for about 15 years, and she does global executive search. And I have conducted executive searches. I've run CEO searches and been in the boardroom watching finalists do their finalist presentations, win and lose the job right in front of me. I have run COO search and CFO searches as well. But primarily, I'm on deck with the Talents Group to do our interview skills training. So for anyone here who's attending and you've gone through the behavioral interviewing classes and used that at Intel, it is the foundation of our 6-hour training that we do in corporate. So I'm accustomed to doing that with regularity. All of this experience has led me to creating a career transition program called Career Velocity, which I have actually turned into a manuscript. I'll be publishing with Advantage Forbes Books in September of 2025. So I bring to you experience based on HR, executive search, and career coaching. I sit at that convergence. I contribute to the Forbes Coaches Council. I have at least 12 articles online that you can read about career transitions. I'm a certified UMAP coach. I'll be talking about the UMAP later. It's a resource I think that many of you may want to plug into. I was made a LinkedIn Top Voice this year in 2024, and I'm a 2-time Disrupt HR speaker. But I have been eclipsed by another Intel alum, Nir Megnazi, who now has done 3. So if Nir ends up popping into this, you can put in the chat how, what that experience is like. So now I have Gina Riley Consulting, and I am so excited to introduce Ellen Recco, who's my trusty sidekick, who's going to be helping with the Q&A. I have a highlights reel here. I had her bio up, but I can't read it while I have two screens fully flushed up here. She's an Intel alum of 20 plus years. She is a coach and a mentor in Portland, Oregon with the Lake Grove Job Seekers. It's an incredible organization. It's a nonprofit. It helps people essentially manage their career pivot, and they do amazing work. They primarily work with people in person here in Portland. However, they also have an extensive online set of resources. They have weekly Zoom skill building classes that are open to anyone. And if you're someone who is interested in being a volunteer mentor of other people who are trying to manage their career transition, they are always looking for people to do that. Ellen, is there anything that you would add to that since I don't have the full bio up?
No, I think you did a wonderful job. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of Gina Riley, so you all should pay attention today and definitely join the other two webinars as well.
Oh, thank you, Ellen. We've been connected now for quite a while, and I think we share a passion for Steve Dalton's 2 Hour Job Search, which I'll be talking about later.
Absolutely.
And we also, I think, are fans of Rich Lehman, who I had done an article about his incredible networking to land a job at Nike, 99 conversations he had years ago during an economic downturn. So we'll be sharing that link later in the presentation with you all. Okay, so some of the goals for today is we're going to help you look at what you need to streamline for your entire career transition journey. There are so many moving parts to a career transition. This webinar is not going to go super deep on any one topic. It is designed to help you think about the pieces that you might have missing. So we'll review some of those elements, and then we will hopefully get you on your way to starting to accelerate your career transition. So what should I do first? That is the first thing that people are confronted with, especially if you've been experiencing the early retirement or if you're experiencing a layoff. You know, we're all kind of wondering, what is that thing? So if you are have recently left Intel, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure you have all your data. You want to make sure you have all of your past performance reviews, and that is where your wins, your career wins, and your metrics are. So we're all judged based on, what we've done throughout each of those years. If you go back and you make sure you have that all lined up, there's a lot of your career story in there, and there's a lot of the nuggets that will now get translated into your resume when you start designing your resume. Or if you're working with outplacement and you have a resume writer, you can be using that as fuel. You also want to make sure you have your contact list, all of your internal, your external contacts. This is going to be the foundation for your networking and relationship building going forward, and then any other relevant references about your work. Now, if you have already disengaged from Intel and you don't have access to things, if you have peers or counterparts that are still active at Intel, you may be able to tap into those people to help jog your mind and your memory about what some of those career wins and metrics are. I'm going to pause every once in a while and check in with Ellen and just see if we have questions, but I'm going to go through a couple of slides first. The next thing that I recommend is just to make sure that you and your family sit down and talk about your emergency plan. What is your savings and your budget, and looking at however many months of expenses that you have coming up. I am no financial advisor, so I am not here to advise you in any way, shape, or form. This is the time though for you to tap into any financial advisement that you have. Make sure that you're sitting down with your family, you're assessing any other possible income streams during this time. Take a look at the healthcare benefits and be really clear on what you have and the timing that you have to use that, and then any emergency planning. Now, I had an opportunity to take a look at the Intel, just the generic severance package that most people will have seen and gotten. And I was very impressed with the amount of resources and jump links to go deep into the severance package. So again, this is not a presentation on what is in anybody's severance package. What I want to emphasize today is make sure you understand your outplacement package. So if you got one, make sure you know the timing, like when that runs out, understand how much in-person contact and coaching that you get and resume development. And then oftentimes these outplacement services will have online resources. So go through the whole catalog of resources that you have available and absolutely extract everything you can from that, because typically there is a time limit on those outplacement services. Ellen, I'm going to pause. Is there anything that we need to address yet?
There's one question that I think you're going to come to later, and
Okay.
the question is, what happens? How do we start, and how do we get ourselves back in the flow of looking for work when we've been out of the market for quite a while? In this case, it was 8 years, but I'm sure there's a range of times
Oh
gaps.
gosh. We definitely will be addressing that, and it sounds like there could be a nuance for a gap. So what I'd like that individual to do is make sure that, you know, if we don't answer that, that we will figure out some way to get an answer, or we'll do some other programming down the line that addresses the long duration of a gap. So that's a fantastic question. So another thing that I want to address is mental health. Again, I'm not a mental health expert, but I have worked with a lot of coaching clients who have in tandem had a therapist. So I want you to be thinking about prioritizing your own self-care and your mental resilience. To manage a career transition today is challenging, and it's important to make sure that you have that infrastructure around you. That's why Lake Grove Job Seekers is such an amazing resource, because it's a whole pool of people who are supporting each other and going through resources to help all of the people land their next best job. So seeking counseling or a therapist is something that I do recommend if you need it. I recently was working with 6 executives from a company that laid off 20% of their workforce worldwide. And so it was really generous. That company hired me to do one-on-one private coaching with 6 people. And of the 6 people, 3 came to the first meeting with tissue boxes. And so what we did was we did some contracting and postponed our start date, because I knew that those people really needed to go and really work through the pain and the shock of the transition itself. They were feeling really dejected after being let go after 15, 20, 30 years from that particular company. And working through that, I knew was going to be the most important thing to them, putting on that brave face going forward to land their next job. They didn't want to carry that in with them. And all 3 of those people have therapists as well. The psychological impact of change is real. And for those of you who, at least back when I was at Intel, we taught our employee base about the William Bridges transition management material. So if you're not familiar with transition and change management, I would recommend getting one of his books, particularly the Managing Personal Changes, and really just understand that it's very normal and natural to go through a cycle of loss, just as if we lost a loved one. So there's usually anger and shock on the front end. Then there's what I kind of call the upside down bell curve, the trough of despair, kind of like that wilderness where you're trying to figure out what that next step is. And you have to work through these things in order to build to the new tomorrow. So that could be a masterclass on itself, just understanding William Bridges' transition management, but I recommend his books. And then you need to also do all this foundational work so you can stay positive and excited about the future, because that is what all of this is about. And I want you to think about the fact that there's a lot of people out there offering career transition advice, me included, Ellen included, and there is no one right way to do it. There are better ways to do it, and I have a lot of opinions. That's why I'm here. But I want you to have a flexible mindset. You will get inputs, you will get feedback. Your outplacement services will be offering you advice and information, and not all of it will be suitable for you. So you need to be flexible and you need to constantly adjust your approach. And I also want you to think about rewarding yourself. Set goals and reward yourself, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's physical fitness, whether that's, going and buying a box of chocolates, whatever the thing is that makes you feel happy, please be doing that. Okay. So with self-care, a couple things that I want you to be thinking about is this could be a great time to start journaling if that's something that you enjoy doing or you've done in the past. So kind of getting your emotions and thoughts and feelings out on the page. Physical activity, like I mentioned before, and social activity. Don't hide at home. Whether that's Zoom rooms or whether that's getting out and talking and meeting with people and having coffees and dinners, this is the time to be doing it, and then to celebrate those small milestones. Ellen, anything yet?
Sorry, no questions, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
We haven't hit the real juice yet, so we're,
Yep.
we're getting there. So now we're going to talk about the strategic job search plan. And again, we're not going deep on any one topic because we could write a book about that. We're giving you the highlights reel today. So here's where I'd like a little audience participation. And if you could put this in the chat, not the Q&A, in the chat, what do you think the first thing is that people should be doing when they're faced with a career transition? Or what are you told? What are you being told you must do when you're facing a career transition? I'm looking. Networking. Thank you, Rhett.
I'll
Get
read
your
them for you,
resume ready.
Gina. Networking, LinkedIn, resume, drink heavily, figure out what you want to be, define your goal.
Eileen, I love it. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thanks for engaging. I appreciate it because Ellen and I, we like this. We live off of this. So most people are told to start here with marketing. What is marketing? Your resume and your LinkedIn. It's all that outward, stuff that you're going to have to be sending out, etc. And they're also told start networking, right? But what are you talking about? What are you marketing? What are you going to put on LinkedIn about yourself? And when you network with people, what are you going to say? And so this is a little bit of storytelling. I worked with a former VP of a major CPG company who had been let go after 26 years. Went to outplacement, worked through the resume development and all of that. The resume, when he came to me and hired me, looked amazing. But then I started to peel back the layers of the onion and I started asking him, what do you do best? What kind of job are you targeting? What are you telling people? And for about 8 months to a year, he had been told by the outplacement services, go network with your resume, but he didn't know what to say because at that big global company, he'd been moved around every 2 to 3 years as a utility player. And so he was having a really hard time sharpening his story and explaining what he did best. So what happened was, with his very limited external network, after that many years inside that big company, he was having misfires. He was talking to people that knew him, but he couldn't explain what he could do for them. And so then he became embarrassed to go back and talk with them again. So when we started working together, we started at the foundation. The foundation. So first, you're going to make your career transition strategy and plan, monitor progress, and iterate as you go. It's not a one-stop shop. Your resume does not solve all the problems. So the first thing, this is the thing that you want to take note on, is that you want to create a unique value proposition. I'm going to be referring to the UVP a lot today. So you want to identify your unique differentiators. And the way that I do this with people is I use the UMAP career profile assessment. For a quick hit, you could do the Clifton Strengths Finder. Just even knowing your top 5 strengths is really powerful. But within the UMAP, you learn about your top 5 strengths, your values, your motivated skills, your burnout skills, and your personality all in one tool. And Ellen, I think that first link might be, if you want to put it in the chat, for the people that are tuning in, if you want to open some of these links that I am putting in the chat for you, go and read them after the session so you can get the support material that I have. So identifying your unique differentiators is critical to all of your communication going forward. It explains your unique leadership approach, your career story, the wins that you've had, those career results, and ultimately, you must be able to answer, tell me about yourself. You're going to be asked in every networking call, every recruiter call, every hiring manager call, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, what is the difference between tell me about yourself and an elevator pitch? I
Gina, one more time, can you clarify UMAP for folks so they can understand?
Absolutely. So to tap into the UMAP, it's myumap.com. And the UMAP will give you 4 assessments in one: your top 5 strengths, your values, your motivated and burnout skills, and your personality, all in one economic tool. And this is a way for you to extract language about your unique differentiators as a person. There's much more work to be done to create your career story, though. And that's your leadership approach, all of the career threads and themes that you have, and then your career wins. So there's much more work to be done, but that is the foundation, is understanding who you are. Because when you understand who you are, there's no one like you. And so that will give you confidence about what it is that you uniquely offer. Anything else in there, Ellen? Because I don't want to blow past it.
Yes, we might have to come back to it at the end. A question about how to help people with their finances, map out what they must have, must get for their next position.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but what I would say is if there's some other people that want to upvote that, and if there's interest, we can likely find people that can come in and do a webinar on that. So that's a great question. And I don't want to misrepresent what I know in this particular.
And possibly a good one to ask the outplacement service if you have access to that.
Great. Thank you for that, Ellen. All right. So ultimately, let me tell you the difference between tell me about yourself and an elevator pitch. So the elevator pitch, you jump on an elevator, you might have 30, 60, 90 seconds to quickly invite someone to be curious about what you do. But when you're answering, tell me about yourself to a recruiter, they need a quick highlights reel about who you are, where you've been, and what you do best. And so this is the thing that I want you to be thinking about honing. I see that somebody has their hand raised. It's Brett and 2 other people, but I'm not sure what to do about that. Oh, they put their hand down.
I'm not seeing that, but they have written questions in the chat with recommendations to folks.
Why don't I pause for a sec? What are those questions?
It's not a question, it's a recommendation of books for people to read.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Awesome.
And it looks like they said it was about earlier because the chat wasn't working.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
We're good.
Awesome. So in this competitive job market, I want you to really gather your confidence and become very, very clear about your unique value proposition. That's how you do what you do with your strengths, what you know how to do with your skills, and your career wins. This all comprises your unique career story. So when I talk about a UVP, I'd love for you to put this in the chat. What do you think a unique value proposition is? What is a unique value proposition? The reason why I start with this is a lot of people, especially after facing a layoff, feel like, I don't have one. I'm one of many. And in order to not feel like one of many and to be more than, being the candidate of choice, you've got to get centered on this UVP. So I see in the chat, unique value, that's you, Ellen. Anybody else?
Not yet.
That's okay.
Something that makes you stand out.
Something that makes you stand out. That's good enough. Let's keep moving. So a unique value proposition is that combination of your strengths, your knowledge, skills, and abilities, and your achievements. It's that whole package. It helps us understand your unique benefits and value. You need to think of yourself as a business solution. So when you're out marketing yourself and you're networking and you're talking with people and you're vying for a job, you need to explain the benefits and values that will be appealing in such a way that you become that candidate of choice amongst candidates who have similar qualifications. That's what's going to help you stand apart, explain your differentiators, and help you be memorable. The question I want you to be thinking about answering is, what can you do unquestionably better than your competition? What is that? And again, a lot of people that I meet initially who have been experiencing a longer career transition are thinking, I don't know what that is. And so I want you to be thinking about that foundational work. And as I've talked to James and Howard over time, they have fielded many, many conversations with people, helping people and listening to people about their career transition. And uniformly, what they have said is, honing in on explaining that unique value proposition is the turnkey to either that success or to just, rambling and talking and not getting the help that you need from people that you're reaching out to. One of my favorite analogies is the Swiss Army knife. Many of you may have had a lot of different jobs in your career, whether that's outside of Intel, only at Intel, maybe you're that utility player like I was explaining before. I did an interview with a woman named Jennifer Davis, who is now the president of a big manufacturing company in Arkansas, but she also is an Intel alum. And I interviewed her for a series called How Your Next Executive Role Finds You. And every single story, there's 7 of them on my Gina Riley Consulting website. Her story is great because what she talks about is you need to be able to lead with your sharp tool. Whatever your target audience is most in need of, that's the thing you need to be leading with, regardless of the fact that you're a Jack or Jill of all trades and you can do it all. You've seen it all. Put me in, coach, I can do this job. You need to be explained how and why, what you can do. The way that she describes it in the article is you might be able to run, jump, skip, and do backflips, but if they're looking for the anchor in the 4x4, then they're going to keep moving. So you need to sharpen that tool. So your ability to tie your UVP to this question sets the tone for the conversation. Tell me about yourself. So think about what unique strengths, how you apply them. What are those reoccurring themes in your career that you can talk about for sure? What are you most known for? Think of it that way. Ask people in your peer group, what do you come to me for? What do you know me to do best? And then how specific can you get? Because that will all contribute to your UVP. Ellen, I'm going to take a breath. Is there anything in the chat?
We're good. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So here's some steps that I would really encourage you to take prior to your resume development and your networking is define those unique strengths, values, skills, and personality. I like the UMAP, but even doing Strengths Finder is really great. Define your leadership approach. And whether you're a leader by title or you're an individual contributor, I want you to be thinking about, from your seat on the bus, how do you lead? How do you influence people? How do you deal with change and transition? Identify your career thread. I love it when people are able to start that tell me about yourself with something like this. Throughout my career, I have been most known for what? And many of the leaders that I have worked with will have very crisp themes. They are known for taking over struggling product lines and groups, overturning them, and then growing a group to 100 or 200 worldwide, and then launching some big product that the whole world uses now. There's something in all of our past that is a reoccurring theme. You need to find it. Identify your recent and top career results. If you're talking about stuff from 20 years ago, you're talking about the wrong things, because that is not what your target wants. You have to think like your target. You have to think like the people who need you to come solve a problem for them. So if you're if you're really toiling away at things that are 20 years past on your resume, I would encourage you to lift your head up and start thinking about, in the last 10 years, what have you been doing? Technology is changing so fast. Everything's changing so fast. The stuff in the past is less relevant to your target. And then, of course, answer that, tell me about yourself. So do this before networking, because I have seen the other side of the misfires, and I want you to avoid that embarrassment and the feeling that, you know, the feelings that start to settle in, like, ooh, maybe I don't have something to contribute, when we all know that each one of us does. Okay, so now that you have your UVP set, you're ready to start with your marketing. Use your outplacement services for this. Have them help you, you know, with building your resume, getting that LinkedIn profile updated. I also encourage you to go through your LinkedIn settings and privacy and make sure that everything is toggled off or on so that you can be found. It is shocking to me to still have people reach out to me where their photo is not showing to people beyond first degree. You want to make sure that you're Googleable. You can actually toggle those things off and on. You can alert your network to new things happening, or you can turn that off. So go through that, spend about an hour and Google anything that you don't understand, and make sure you are set up so recruiters can find you and other people can find you. You want to start preparing for interviews, getting your interview prep done, and then build your job search strategy from here. Now, here's the good news. This is where James was talking about earlier, is we will be doing a session January 9th on Steve Dalton's The 2-Hour Job Search. And that will be the anchor and the foundation for job search strategy that I'll be teaching you then. So you want to go sign up for that. So the resume, you need the resume to align with your ideal job descriptions. That means keywords and phrases that you would most align with. One of my favorite phrases comes from a LinkedIn guru, one of my LinkedIn gurus, Kevin D. Turner. And what Kevin says is, it's simple math. Whatever you put on your resume or whatever's in your LinkedIn profile is going to be used on the other side by recruiters with drop-down menus. So, for example, if your headline is Chief Unicorn Chaser, there's no drop-down menu in any ATS, I would imagine, that would find you and drop you into a search they're trying to populate. So you want to really leverage AI, leverage ChatGPT, leverage the experts at the outplacement service to make sure that you are best aligning with these JDs. I'm going to take a breath, Ellen, because I can see things in the chat, but I don't know if we have questions.
No questions. We're just chatting.
Okay.
And enforcing your great points, which they're
Yay!
wonderful.
I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see the fine print on the second screen. All right, let's talk more about the resume. Quantifiable results or proof points, absolutely essential. There's still tons of really not great resumes out there, and it's pretty easy to pinpoint which ones are not going to be effective, and it's the ones without quantifiable results. And even if you work in support areas of a company, HR is one of those. Sometimes it's there's people all throughout a company that struggle with what are those results. Go back to your performance reviews, because Intel is very data driven, and a lot of your performance reviews and whether or not you got promoted is going to be based on those numbers and results. Tomorrow, I have 3 resume writing experts and job search strategists who I admire greatly, all on a panel tomorrow. And one of them is Sarah Johnston. And she has a formula she calls RAS. Lead with your bullet points with results, actions, and then the situation. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. I'm actually featuring her in one of my chapters in my book with this formula, because it really, really works. If you think like this, you will create better bullet points. And if you already have your resume developed from outplacement, go and challenge yourself to go through the whole thing and ask yourself, so what? Why is this bullet on here? And then you also might want to consider having 2 resumes, particularly if you're a leader or a senior leader. Is a networking resume one that maybe is more, visually appealing, and another one that's ATS friendly, which is it still can look great, but it's really got to be parsable into an ATS. And again, hold that message if you have questions. Tomorrow we can talk about, what is parsable with the 3 panel experts.
Gina, do you want to? Yeah, ATS. What does that mean?
Oh, thank you. I should have spelled that out. Applicant tracking system. And there's hundreds of them. And so for me to sit here and be an authority on ATS would be completely disingenuous because I'm not a technologist. What we know is many of these big companies have had ATS systems for years and years and years, and they may just like keep patching onto it new updates. And sometimes even recruiters don't know what is underlying in the ATS. So there's a lot of recruiter bashing that I think is grossly unfair out there because sometimes they may not even know completely how the whole system works. They use it to the best of their own ability. They know how they're populating their searches, but we also don't know, what is happening with that black hole, for the applicant tracking system. And then I've also talked with experts, and I don't have any pointers with white papers or anything like that, but I've talked to people who hold patents in ATS technology, and I have been told that if you are a serial applier, meaning spray and pray, applying, especially through the big job boards like an Indeed versus a company website, sometimes those systems will tag you as a bot, meaning a serial applier that's not really a human behind it, and then your resume may go by the wayside automatically and a human may not see it. So these are things that you need to be thinking about, and also why networking is the key. The relationships that you build and getting introductions are key to your career transition success. Anything else, Ellen?
There's some chatter about how ATS works. I'm trying to answer it in the chat for you.
I'll let you do that because this is definitely not a session on ATS.
Right.
And it's such a sticky topic, resume development and LinkedIn and ATS, that I have a whole dedicated chapter in my book coming out next year on it. And I quote 15 experts on all of this because there's that much information. So
Yeah.
we will try to address some of the ATS questions tomorrow. So please join us. So, I blew past interview prep. Sorry about that. So one thing that I talk about in my book is you want to be the rare candidate. You want to make sure for interview prep that you're researching and understanding the company inside out, particularly if you're vying for a very senior leadership level role. You have to go way beyond the company website. The senior leaders that I work with, the people vying for directors, VP roles, CEO, they're spending at least 40 hours on that first round of interview prep. For people in the mid types of jobs, I would say 20 hours might be appropriate for, really putting in good time into your research. You need to align. You need to tailor your stories to match the company's needs and culture. So paying attention to that through your research and making guesses and assumptions about what is needed so you can check those assumptions when you go into the interview process. You need to read every room, engage personal dynamics, and plan and you need to adapt your behaviors and your answers accordingly. Here's an example. So if you are dealing with a first line recruiter who's literally just checking off boxes, maybe it's a person who's in their 20s, they're newer to recruitment and such, maybe their job is to go through and say, do you meet the salary requirements? Can you relocate? Or whatever those minimum requirements are. That's not the time to go into your super deep technical expertise unless that's what they need. Ask them what they need. And as you go through each level of the interview process, each decision maker cares about something different. So you need to read the room and you need to be paying attention to what they really need to know. If you're a senior leader and you're now interviewing with a senior HR person, maybe it's the business partner for a business unit, that person's probably going to be really talking to you about your leadership approach. So again, going back to the UVP, you should have your stories and interview prep very well prepared so you can kind of ebb and flow depending on who you're speaking to. And then evaluate, actively listen, ask really great questions, and then you'll need to make your own best informed decision if you get a job offer. Ellen, anything before I move on?
Not yet. Nope,
Okay.
we're still.
Great.
Thanks.
Hopefully people are furiously scribbling notes. Okay, so here's the thing. These interview processes for many jobs, especially at the senior level, are taking a really long time. Even with the executives that come to me and hire me with an interview process already going, the soonest I've seen a transition is in that 4 to 6 month window. Now, for other levels of jobs, it could be faster, and I certainly hope it would. Here's the thing. These companies are jumpy. They know that it's really a detriment to hire the wrong person into a job, because it's at least 3 times a person's annual salary to go back to market and re-recruit when they botch it. And then there's all of the fallout as well, like possible disruption to culture, possible missed opportunities with customers, you name it. So you need to be aware of this, that you need to get yourself into a position where you're removing doubt about your candidacy. So with interview prep and that job alignment, you can use AI to convert ideal job descriptions into behavioral questions. So if you haven't dabbled with ChatGPT or any of the AI tools, absolutely, like Google like great prompts. Again, this is not a workshop on using AI, but I use AI to convert job descriptions into behavioral questions to help my clients start to lay out their stories. Now, if you've been through behavioral interviewing, you should be familiar with the SOAR method, which is a great storytelling method to start laying out your stories. What was the situation? What were the obstacles that you overcame? What were the actions and the results? If you are using one of the other storytelling methods, which is fine, but I'm going to give you a word of caution: CAR, STAR, PAR. For example, STAR is situation, task, actions, results. If you're a senior leader and you're talking about your tasks, you're talking about the wrong things. You need to explain to the listener, why are you telling this story? How hard was that situation? What did you have to navigate to influence something to get done? So I just encourage you to think about using SOAR. Use search engines and AI for research. Research key players and prospective hiring managers so that you can try to reach out to them. And then practice your interview prep and receive honest feedback. If you're asking a best friend who's not willing to be tough on you, I would keep moving. So like when I planned my first Disrupt HR talk, which was extremely challenging, I met with my friend Nir Magnazzi. For anyone who knows him, he's amazing. He cannot tell a lie. So when I went and practiced with him, he gave me the hard feedback that I needed so I could get better. So you need friends like that. So again, January 9th, we are going to talk about job search strategy. And my anchor in my consulting program is the 2-Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton. And Ellen, I can't remember every link that I have, but I do have the link to Steve Dalton's 2-Hour Job Search if you'll pop that in there. I interviewed Steve Dalton and I asked him, what do mature professionals do? Anything different based on the 2-Hour Job Search that we need to know from you about how to navigate career transitions? It's an incredible interview. He spent 4 hours with me and I dissected it down to just a nice economical article. This is the groundwork that you need to start building your target list of 40 companies and then organizing them in the order that you are most preferring to spend your time. The reason why I use the 2-Hour Job Search is Steve will give you the psychological underpinnings of why you want to use a methodical process like this versus spray and pray, versus just scattershot approach going for anything that you see on the market. I can't say enough about it, so I'm going to talk to you on January 9th. Ellen, I know that you know about this, this amazing book. Is there anything you would add?
I would highly recommend that everybody buy a copy of this book. You're guaranteed to get something high value out of almost every chapter. Read it, highlight it, go back to it. It's a great resource for everyone.
Yep, dog ear it. And I do recommend buying the actual book, second edition. If you're a Kindle person or what have you, it will be more challenging because I say it's kind of like reading a car manual, which I wouldn't want to read, but it's really nuts and bolts. So, and once you're done with it and you land a job, give it to a friend. All right. So what you want to do is increase your odds in your job search strategy. And one little nugget I pulled from the book, so this is from Steve Dalton's book, is, you know, there's the big marquee companies out there, but 2/3 of the employment opportunities are actually with companies that are less than 100 people. So consider this when you build your target list, because the niches are possibly in the, the riches are in the niches. Is that what they say? Look outside the box, look beyond the obvious, because some of those obvious companies are also experiencing layoffs. Okay, so in the job market, you will need to be networking. And so people ask, well, what is the hidden job market? And what I always say is, it's not where jobs are hiding from you. The hidden job market is when there is a group of people, possibly it's a leadership team, and someone raises their hand and they say, I'm going on maternity leave, or I'm going to another company, I'm quitting the company, or maybe somebody's getting let go, and there's an opening that's just percolating. It is not in the visible market. No one is keeping it hidden, but what happens in almost every situation is people like look around the table and they say, who do we know? Because people like to hire people that they know, like, and trust. That is part of a personal brand, the know, like, and trust factor. So if you're in the market, networking, talking to people regularly, you will uncover opportunities. So you need to prioritize networking and relationship building over traditional job search methods. That means ATS, applicant tracking system, because we know that people who aren't qualified flood these job boards. And the recruiters can't keep up, and it keeps good talent from getting seen. Leverage your dormant ties. There is a book called Friend of a Friend by Dr. David Burkus, and you don't necessarily need to buy it. Don't tell him I said that, because I'm going to tell you the punchline. The punchline in the first couple of chapters is the people who will most take your phone call are people who already know you from your past. Think high school, college, any alumni organization, your golf club, your church, your hairdresser, anybody who's ever known you is and you're not in contact with them now, is considered a dormant tie. And the social science tells us that the most likely people to take your phone call are those people versus a stranger. And those people have been building a network without you over years and years and years, and may have a purview that you do not have into opportunities. So this is a strategy I want you to start seriously thinking about for your networking, and you need to hold informational conversations. And I could do a whole nother webinar on just this topic. Ellen, are there any questions yet?
I'm just reading one now.
Okay.
Someone is asking again about if we have a lot of experience, 20 to 30 years of experience, difficult to put that on a 2-page resume, difficult to tell your story succinctly. How do we go about talking about ourselves and marketing ourselves when we have so much to offer? We've had sort of 2 flavors of this question.
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Most resumes should be a highlights reel. Most resumes are about 2 pages, but for people with, 30 plus years experience, and especially if the experience is relevant to the target, 3 pages would be appropriate. It kind of depends. So there's no one pat answer. Remember, this is that flexible answer. Tomorrow we have 3 experts, Sarah Johnston, Adrian Tom, and Ben Wyatt. And all of them will have nuances to answer that question. I would encourage you to join us. What I would also caution you about is age discrimination is real. I saw on LinkedIn in the past week a 40-year-old complaining that they were discriminated against for their age. And according to the law, age 40 is considered old. I'm 55, so I am in that category. And we have to be cognizant that if we're going to put stuff from 1989 on our resume, yes, people are going to quickly calculate our age. So what do you need to do? Focus on the value for the target. That's what goes into your messaging on your resume and your LinkedIn and what you're talking about. I actually had a man I worked with who was so proud of an internship he had in the late 80s that he would not take it off his resume. And I really felt like that was a problem. It didn't relate to what he was targeting at all. All right, so please come tomorrow. Okay, so the ABCs of networking: always be connecting, gather information, connect with other people, and make networking a habit. So let's just briefly talk about the last part of an effective career transition strategy, and that's thought leadership. I won't spend as much time on this. I recommend for people to really get onto LinkedIn, and first just by engaging with other professionals that are like-minded within the topics that relate to your career transition. If you scroll and you're commenting and liking and spending any visible time on things that don't really matter, like let's say it's politics or something like that, the algorithm will continue to feed you what you're watching. That LinkedIn wants you to stay there. So what you want to do is make really weighty comments on other people's posts where they've spent time putting out some great content, and you're engaging with other people, and look at who's in the comments and see if there's interesting people to connect with. The other thing I'm going to recommend is consider attending industry events, conferences, and meetups. Look at who's speaking at those conferences. Connect with those people. Expand your network. You've got to do this in order to really fan out and see everything that's going on. Think about where your audience is hanging out. As a part of your total job search strategy, please consider also enlisting a personal board of directors or different kinds of people that can offer you advice and information, mentors, and then job search groups like Lake Grove Job Seekers. Exactly. So finding support systems is great. And with Rich Lehman really talks about that in the article. So the article that Ellen led you to.
Just posted it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Incredible story. One of my favorites. Rich held 99 in-person conversations to land his job at Nike. That was his target. And the networking tips are in there. So start with your unique value proposition. Get sharp with your sharp tool and understand what those top tools are. And then answer this question: what can you do unquestionably better than your competition? And this will start to set you up for career transition success. These are the foundational moving parts. If you liked this webinar and you felt like it was helpful and it helped you think outside the box, we would invite you right now to put in the Q&A any other topics that you want us to bring back to the group, other things that you would like to see and hear about, because in 2025 we are planning many of these webinars to be helpful and also bring the community together for networking. So if you see people in the chat right now that old friends and colleagues, reach out to them. Make sure you're connected to everybody with first degree separation. Why do you want to be connected? When you get off here, you will want to connect. Send a personal connection request to Ellen and to me. Hey, Ellen, I saw you on the webinar today. I'd like to connect. That's all you need to say, and we will connect. And then we are all connected by 3 degrees of separation on LinkedIn, meaning recruiters can find you through 3 degrees. So if Ellen has however many contacts and I have, let's say, 5,000 connections, now you're 2 more degrees closer to people finding you. So you want a healthy network, not just everybody across the globe, and connect with intentionality. Send personal connection requests, because there's so many sales pitches today that a lot of times people will disregard it. I have a habit of looking at people's history. If I see intel, I'll know. I'll know, but otherwise there's so many sales pitches, you may not get the connection. All right. So what questions do people have?
I got a few for you.
Great.
There's one about networking, and I think it's a good one for you to just maybe do a 1-minute deeper dive on. Mm-hmm. Someone wants to network. They happen to be looking for remote jobs, and they want to just get some more information, general recommendations or how-tos on how do they start or get that wheel turning about how to network better.
Oh my gosh, I love that question. I forget how many days ago, but I did a post. If you go into my LinkedIn profile and you look at my activity and just look at the past couple of posts, I just did a post on the 2 frameworks that I recommend people use for informational conversations when they're networking. One is the SWOT and the other is the Tiara. The SWOT is, you pull these out of your back pocket. Tell me the strengths of your organization. What are some of the weaknesses? I wouldn't say weakness, but you get the idea. Like, what are some of the things that are troubling in the company? What are the opportunities your company is trying to seize? And what is threatening your success? Those are great conversation starters. Steve Dalton has the tiara in his 2-hour job search. And tiara stands for trends. What are the trends you see? What insights do you have for me? What advice do you have for me? What resources do you recommend that I, chase down? Podcasts, books, people. And then the last one for the tiara is assignments. I find assignments for mature professionals less helpful. That I think that's better for a student. So those are 2 strong recommendations. Go into my profile and go. I think I even did a video. So check that out. Ellen?
Networking. Someone gave a thumbs up. Love the idea of doing mock behavioral interviews as you suggested. And that's the general gist of it right now.
Great. So folks, the way that we can bring you the best content is to get feedback on whether or not this was helpful and supportive, whether or not you want to build some community coming together this way. So whether or not you're thinking of something now or it's later, please send one of us, send us the questions that you have so that we can start to help, the community find that next best thing for themselves. James, I'm going to call you back in because I think I am running right on
You
time.
are right. Hey, you are right on schedule. And oh my God, I'm not going to be able to help myself. And I know you're going to kill me, but I got to make a couple of comments. Everything you said from my personal experience is absolutely spot on. Because remember, I've only been hired a couple of times, but I've hired well over 100 people in my career.
Mhm.
And a lot of that as a senior staff member. Right. And I can tell you, it is the power of your personal and the power and the quality of your personal network that matters. Remember, when someone's hiring you, they're hiring you because they got a problem that they want somebody to take away. And so give them, to your point, Gina, give them the proof points. And remember, all businesses are motivated by only a couple of things. You either make money or you don't. You as an employee are either going to contribute to the top line, cost mitigation, or the bottom line. That's what it's all about. That is literally all that matters, right? And I completely agree. It is the value of that personal network. And for those who are interested in an academic view of this, a friend of the Intel Alumni Network, Neil Ferguson, wrote a book that had a huge impact on me called The Square and the Tower, The Power of Distributed Networks. And I can tell you, being a son of Silicon Valley, I was born and raised here, it is all about your personal brand, and it is all about the quality and the quantity of your network. And with that, let's get this thing wrapped up because I'm excited about tomorrow, Gina and Ellen. Let's go.
I know. It's going to be incredible. I put in,
great.
Ellen already probably did it for me. I have on my website a free career transition guide that is actually a 30-minute webinar and a workbook. Check your spam folder for it. It is absolutely free and it is not a sales pitch, and it will help you start to design exactly what I talked about today. So please start there, and I'll see you tomorrow with the 3 panelists.
I want to thank both you, Gina and Ellen. This is why the Intel Alumni Network exists. We're here. We are a community. We are here to help each other and support each other through these difficult times. And look forward to additional sessions. As you said, January 9th. That will be the kickoff for next year. And then we will also be having a number of technology thought leadership events, including some discussion around the foundational technology around the next generation of AI. And with that, anyone, please leave comments, thumbs up, thumbs down, what we could have done better, what we did great. Well, that would be marvelous. And we look forward to tomorrow, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye
Ellen.
for now. Thanks,
My pleasure.
Ellen.
Thank you, Gina.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, James.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.